just for Andrea Constant, whom I consider to be the Joan of Arc in the war on rape. It is not just a victory for the Commonwealth. It is not just a victory for the 62 of us publicly known Cosby survivors. It is a victory for all sexual assault survivors, female and male.
A Bill Cosby accuser reacting to yesterday's conviction. America's dad found guilty of sexual assault. Now he could spend the rest of his life in prison. He's facing up to 30 years. Let's bring in our legal panel. Brian Claypool, a criminal defense attorney, and Jonna Spilbore, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thank you.
This was a stunning loss for the Cosby team, Brian.
Hey, Rick, I wasn't surprised at all. In fact, on Monday in Los Angeles on another show, I predicted that he would be found guilty. And here's why. There were three major game changers in this trial compared to the first trial. The first one is, you just talked about it, you heard the Me Too movement, the new social climate we have. This case was always bigger than Bill Cosby. It's about a movement to respect women and to hold accountable people that abuse power. And Rick, jurors respond to the social climate that we're in. That's the first big one. Second big one was this $3.3 million that was admitted into evidence in this case that Cosby paid Andrea Constant. That was colossal for the prosecution. And then the last one was allowing 5 other sexual assault victims to come in and talk about how they were seduced by Cosby. That was just devastating.
Well,
to the
meanwhile,
defense.
the first jury deliberated for some 52 hours and wound up with a mistrial, and we heard that they were leaning toward acquittal. And Bill Cosby then hires a new legal team, including Tom Mesereau, who famously defended Michael Jackson against child molestation charges. Where did he go wrong, Jonna?
Well, you know, I don't know if this is so much a problem with Cosby's defense team, but I do agree with the point that Brian said. The judge made a couple of mistakes here, and whether you think the jury got it right or wrong, Bill Cosby has some good issues for appeal. One being what Brian said, you can't trot out 5 other accusers when they have no opportunity to ever be heard. Their cases are ancient, and use that to prove that Bill Cosby acted in accordance therewith. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, the jury came back and wanted to know what the legal definition of consent was. Now, this case turned on 2 things: consent and credibility. And you know what the judge responded to the jury? The judge said, use your common sense. Well, those are 2 big issues for the Cosby appeal.
Prior bad acts were allowed. That was allowed as testimony in this case. So, Brian, what happens next? Can they win and appeal his defense?
Well, before I answer that real quick, I do disagree with one thing Jonna said. I think the strategy that the defense lawyers used, or Cosby's lawyers used, was curious, and I challenge it. In other words, they attacked Andrea Constant. They attacked these 5 sexual assault victims, Rick. Yeah. And when you demonize these victims and you re-traumatize them, jurors aren't going to like that, and that could have played into
Brian,
their verdict.
He had to attack their credibility because it turned on that.
Yeah, but you don't call them gold diggers and they're not capable of getting men. I mean, that's personally attacked. You can impeach a witness without destroying their dignity and without personalizing it.
That's
true.
I
think that's where Cosby's lawyers went wrong.
What's clear is his celebrity did not help him this time around. Jonna, Brian, we got to leave it there. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.